I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Hello, everyone. Oh my God, we're back.
We're back.
Yay!
Hello, so excited.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us today again. This is the 5th episode of the show Debs on Hulu, right? And we're going to talk all about it. But first of all, I want to make sure everyone is still safe and healthy, right? I know we're holding up at home. We're going to make it work. I know it seems like every day is the same, but we're going to get some exciting into the room today, okay? So we're going to make it happen for you guys. And I have my great panel with me again. I have Tyler Simone with us.
Hello. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining again. And of course, the one and only Ashley Dior Jones is in the house.
Hello, everyone. So thankful to get to interact with humans, kind of.
I know, right?
Yeah. I just said to everyone, I think FaceTime, Skype, and also Zoom became the new thing right now for everyone, right? So that's pretty much what it is.
We're
even dating,
now.
I heard. Even dating. People date now. The first date is on the FaceTime.
Wow.
It's a lot less pressure.
Awesome. And also the audience at home, listeners and viewers, thank you so much for joining us today. I know we talked already about it. It's good that you guys stay home, and stay safe and healthy, right? For not just for yourself, but for everyone. We're definitely going to make it work. We're in this together, right? So I think as long as we do it for all of us, we're going to make it work and going to have a normal ending at the end, hopefully, right? So, but getting right into it, we have a lot of topics to talk about. First of all, we're definitely going to talk a little bit more about the relationship between Lily and Sergei, because we realized how they actually met and how it went with them and how they fall in love. So that was really interesting. But then also one of the biggest topics I feel that we're definitely going to talk about a little more is that we see a mouse coming alive again, which for me personally is one of the biggest topics, which kind of makes the whole show even more interesting right now. We're going to talk about that. And then also really want to talk a little bit more about Kenton too, because we have that one scene where he's going to be pretty open to Katie and Forrest about his relationship to them and his position in this overall circumstance. So I think very, very interesting. But let's start from the very beginning, guys. And then also, by the way, before we go into this, we're definitely going to have an MVP today, right? We have a special segment, an MVP. We're not going to tell you guys who it is, but you might have a feeling already. I mentioned his name already today, so think about it. Just saying. But let's go right into it. The first thing I wanted to talk about is because we mentioned last week that we don't even know if Jamie is still alive.
Yes.
Is Kenton killing him? And out of a sudden, we realized the very first scene of when we really go back into the scenarios that he kept him alive. He didn't kill him. I mean, what was your first thought when you saw, wow, he didn't kill him? That was interesting to me.
I was shocked because every time we see Kenton, he is killing someone. And I just thought that it was probably time for Jamie to go because now he's getting involved and he didn't end up doing it. So I don't know. I always said that Kenton, I think, is tired of killing people. He's not into it anymore. So, and he kind of talks about it on the show. I'm sure we'll get into it. But yes, I was shocked.
Yeah. Ashley, what about you?
I was, so if you guys remember last week, I said that I didn't think Kenton killed Jamie, but I thought he would eventually. So I was very surprised that it was just a torture situation and not an actual kill. I was very surprised Kenton didn't actually murder Jamie right then and there. So I'm very interested to see why he chose to let Jamie go. It's definitely a change in Kenton's character. So we'll see what's going on with him. I'm very interested in this. It's weird.
It's definitely very interesting because I thought he's definitely going to do something crazy to him so that Jamie can't take any action anymore whatsoever. So I was really surprised that he just left him like that. I mean, he's breaking his finger, which is a crazy scene, by the way, which I was like, oh, that looked a little okay. But it was very interesting. But before we go more into these scenarios, I wanted to go back for a minute to talk about the opening scene. And actually, you and I, we talked about that already for a couple of seconds, which is very interesting because we almost have Lily 5 times in the room, Sergei, and also Jamie. So what did you guys think or feel when you saw that opening scene? It was very interesting to me. What did you guys feel?
It was.
Tyler.
No,
I'm sorry.
you're good. You go ahead. Go ahead.
Please, Ashley, you go ahead.
When that scene first opened up, I was like, okay, what is happening? Like, are they clones? And then I noticed that it was kind of like, it was Lily and Jamie's in their relationship, and then Lily and Sergei in their relationship, and how Sergei and Lily's relationship like grew, and how Jamie and Lily's relationship kind of dwindled. And I think it was just showing us bits and pieces of their relationships, but at different times, just together,
Right.
to kind of show, why one relationship thrived and maybe why the other one didn't so much. I thought it was beautifully done. I was really very interested to see this kind of play on optics to kind of show us, the relationship, how it was kind of going with this. I guess it wasn't a triangle then, but just with these three people, I thought it was really interesting, really well done.
Yeah.
Definitely. Great cinematography. But Tyler, what about you?
I agree. I think it was beautifully done. It did confuse me more though, because as time goes on, I'm always confused about when I'm seeing the stuff that we're seeing on on the screen. Is it happening right now, or are we watching it in the past, or are we watching it in the future? So that those time lapse just kind of confuse my mind even more. So I'm trying to figure out when are we looking in on what's happening? And they do a really good job of keeping us confused, by the way.
Yes.
No, that's a very good point.
I agree.
That's a very good point. When I watched the very first seconds, I was like, okay, I didn't get it, but then at some point I felt like, oh, they're trying to compare these two relationships, I think, that Lily had, right? Or in the last couple of months or years. And I think they really they have Jamie and Sergei sitting at the table at the same time, doing almost the same thing, but then we're basically turning around to the couch, having Sergei sitting on the couch. Jamie is joining and trying to take her hand. And it was very interesting. But I think at the end of the day, the bottom line of that scene was how broken Jamie at the end actually is, because he lost her to Sergei at the end, right? Which also brings me to that one topic when we have that flashback, when we see Sergei and also Lily sitting at this cafe on campus at the company. And she's very much down because she just ended the relationship. She broke up with Jamie, right? Because she didn't feel like he was the right one. Right. And Sergei approached her in a way which was and she even says it very blunt in a way. She was like, okay, it is just how it is, right? He's not the right one, move on. That's okay, don't worry about it. So Ashley, what did you feel about this scenario? Because at the beginning, I felt, wow, Sergei was way different at the beginning than he is, or how he was when we met him actually in the first place.
Yeah, I was really grateful that they decided to show us how, the very first interaction between Sergei and Lily, I thought it was just so natural and so real and just so cute. They were both kind of brokenhearted at the time, and, they had each other to kind of understand what the other was going through. And I thought I feel like the best relationships usually blossom from some type of commonality. And just the fact that they were both getting through breakups, and he had some really good insight to give her. I mean, of course.
Right. Thank you for saying that. So true. I mean, the first thing, I totally understand what you're saying. The first thing that I also thought is Sergei really saying the truth here right now? Was he really breaking up a relationship? Was he really in a relationship? Or was that just made up in order to win her over? Maybe I'm too negative, but Tyler, what did you feel? I feel like maybe he's just saying that to her right now in this situation to have her for himself, at the end.
I didn't think about that until just now, and it kind of makes me think that you kind of brought up a good point, because now we've learned in the past that he's this Russian spy. So that could very well be a made-up story. I guess we'll find out later on, but I agree with you guys. It was really cool to see their first interaction. In that moment, I feel like she kind of fell for him really quick, because it was kind of like she met her match. He's blunt and she's pretty blunt also. And it's interesting to get her perspective on the relationship with Jamie, because Jamie just feels like, she ghosted him, but really for her, he just wasn't it. So it's kind of sad. I feel bad for Jamie, but
right. No, I get it. Oh yeah, I still feel bad for him. I think he's going through a lot of stuff just by trying to help her. I mean, of course, he's
I
still in love with
know.
her, but I was like, oh my God, this poor guy. But the thing is, I have to point that out. I really liked how Sergey ended the conversation and was something like, okay, I see you on Tinder. I said,
Yeah.
oh man, that was funny. That was funny,
That was
right?
good.
Come on. That was a good
That was
phrase to
good.
end the conversation. But but coming back to the deafs department and talking about Katie and Forrest a little more, what we also see is that Katie is actually giving us access to all these flashbacks, right? So she is the one going back to the past and is showing us all these circumstances and scenarios. And I was just wondering, I mean, what do you guys think about why is she actually watching all of that? Why is she really watching all these relationships between those people, even especially also having Lily and her father sitting at a table playing a game, and then also showing us that she's losing her dad back in the days. So why do you guys think Katie wanted to see that? Ashley.
I don't trust Katie, first and foremost. I think that she is trying to use her intelligence to change the past and the future. I mean, honestly, I think she's kind of playing with a power that I don't think she should have. And that bothers me. So I don't know if she's erasing these memories. I don't know if she's changing 1 millisecond of what happened, which could, then change everything after it. I don't know what she's doing, but whatever it is, I don't trust it. I don't like that she's looking back. I don't like that she's making it disappear, making it change. I just wish they would just leave stuff alone.
Yeah. Oh my God. Same here. I don't understand what it is she's looking for and why she's spending so much time watching all of these old situations. But then again, it's like, are we looking into the past? Because I always forget all of the rules that they have about, you can look into the past, but you can't look into the future. I don't know where we're looking at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I totally get what you guys saying, and also Katie is still like a character. I feel that we didn't really know much about, right? But what's interesting in this episode also is that she's not just showing us everyone's past pretty much in the scenarios and relationships, but she's also even showing us her own past. So she even went back into her own past in this kind of big hall where she's listening to the professor. And funny enough, we have also Forrest sitting in the same room, listening and observing her, how she's behaving towards the professor. So that was very interesting. And I feel like, and that blew my mind, by the way, because I always felt like Forrest knows exactly what he's doing. And I think he wanted to even control Katie every time and says exactly what he thinks is the right way. But when we see the past and how he meets Katie at the very beginning, because he says, hey, I want to pay for your tuition. I want to make you finish university. And afterwards, I also want to offer you a job. And then then we can see that they don't show us that they having a conversation about the plan Forrest has. But the interesting thing is that Forrest is asking Katie, do you think that is possible? Do you actually think that would work? So he's asking Katie, the student at that point, if that's possible. So I think at the end of the day, Katie is really the rock for Forrest in a certain way. I think without Katie, Forrest would have never done that. He would have never gotten that far, which is interesting to me because I felt it was always the other way around. So what did you guys feel about that? Tyler, let's start with you.
That's an interesting point. I didn't think about that, but it makes perfect sense. I think that he relies on her for a lot. She's really smart, and despite the fact that she's younger and that she was in college at the time, he saw potential in her, and I think that that's what really landed her to the job at Devs. It just seems like they want the best of the best, no matter how young they are, because we know Lyndon, he's a kid. I mean, I don't even know if we really know how old. Oh, I'm sorry, she's we don't know how old she is, but she's pretty young and she's at the same spot. So
right.
I think Forrest was just willing to do anything and everything to get his daughter back. And so in doing that, he's going to find the best of the best, the smartest of the smartest, and the most willing and okay to break the rules to see what's out there, to see the possibility. And I think Katie just kind of fit that mold perfectly. Like she has her own opinions. She is extremely intelligent. She knows what she wants, and she's not afraid. So I think she was exactly who Forrest wanted to execute
No,
this
totally.
plan.
No, that's, I mean, it feels like she's almost trying to, I think he's almost trying to use her in a certain way, right? Obviously. I mean, exactly how you just said it. He wants to have his daughter back. That's the main point of his whole plan. And what's interesting about it, talking about Forrest and talking about his past, we have this scenario that we all saw, which to me was like, I mean, that's the worst thing a father could see, right? Obviously, this is crazy. So when I saw it, I was like, wow, that's a crazy scene. He's standing on the street. The car is basically, he sees the car with his wife or like girlfriend or whatever, and his daughter in the car already, like driving towards him. And out of a sudden, this car comes and crashes right into the car. And I was like, oh my God, that's crazy. And he is on the phone while this is happening. So I was trying to put myself into his shoes. And I have a feeling that Forrest now believes or thinks that he is the one who he's basically the reason why that happened, because he was on the phone with her, so she couldn't focus on the street anymore. And that's why this crash actually happened. That's just my theory. That's how I feel. That was his guilt that he feels all the time within himself, which made him having this company deaths and hopefully getting his daughter back. So actually, how did you see that scenario personally?
Well, kind of the same way. Even Katie, when she was talking to Forrest, says, you know, Devs is basically determinism precludes free will versus you had choices and you were guilty of making these decisions. So it's like if you had done just one thing differently, maybe your wife and kid wouldn't have died. And I loved how they showed the millions of different scenarios that could have went down. And
good point.
I mean, of course, he would want to do things differently if he felt he had the choice. You know, if he could go back. I mean, we all have that feeling. If we could go back and do one thing different, you know, where could our lives be now? So I don't fault him for having those feelings. It's just, you know, that's kind of life sometimes.
It's true. Tyler, what did you feel?
Yeah, it was a crazy scene to watch and sad, of course. I thought it was interesting how it was like they had both scenes in one at one point. I don't know if you guys remember, but the car with Amaya drove up, and then in the background, in the distance, we saw him still walking towards the scene, which I'm not quite sure what they were trying to do there. Maybe we'll learn more about it later, but that was really interesting too. Tying both together. But yeah, we do have those moments all the time, you know, where we maybe if we stood and brushed our teeth for 1 minute more, we wouldn't have, you know, missed our bus.
I mean, it's interesting that you mentioned that scenario, especially that moment. I think actually that's probably what you said already. They just wanted to show us what his option could have been if he probably wouldn't have taken this phone call with his wife while she's crossing the street with the car, because then the car would have driven up, opening the door, and his daughter would have come out of the car and he would giving her a hug. So I think they were maybe trying to give us these options, what could have happened. And honestly, that made me also think about my own life for a minute. I mean, even you guys felt the same, even you audiences at home. Sometimes you just think about your own past and you just feel like, oh my God, if I would have done that differently, just maybe have it done like whatever it is, maybe my life now would look differently or whatever. You know, I think that's really, it feels very close to almost everyone, not to that extreme, but I think we all experienced something like that before. So
absolutely.
Yeah. And I really valued that. Sorry.
Yeah, and I think Forrest trying to develop, you know, whatever the past or the future is. I mean, you know, I can understand why he would want to go back and change some things.
For sure. Which is interesting, which brings me to the next topic, and I mentioned it already at the beginning. We seeing the mouse coming alive again, right? And I was like, oh, okay, now I fully understand. Now I fully understand what this devs department is actually like made for. And you know, the thing is, of course, the goal is now seeing the mouse coming alive. The goal is to have his daughter coming alive again, obviously. So I'm still trying to get my head around, though, if that's the main purpose of the devs department, to make people alive again, or anyone alive again, animals, whatever it is. why is it important then to be able to see the past or the future?
Well, I think
Yeah.
if you change kind of like what the story is trying to tell us, if you change 1 millisecond of the past, the future is different. You know, if you change if you move the camera 1 inch to the left, what you see is going to be completely different, and therefore the future will be completely different. So,
oh, that's interesting. So that means you basically telling me right now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're telling me is that, okay, the devs department is not just able to see what happened in the past or what might happen in the future, they are also able to manipulate the past in order to keep someone alive in the future.
I mean, that's my guess. I can be completely wrong, but
no, but hey, that's a good theory. I can see that. That's
what it seems like to me.
By the way, audiences at home, when you're watching and listening to us, please let us know what you think. So what is the devs department really able to do? I would love to hear your comments and see your comments as well. But Tyler, what did you think? What we just talked about? What is your feeling about that?
Gosh, I don't know. It's so hard to tell because I mean, as the show has gone on, the projections have gotten so much clearer. So I don't know if the goal is to, I don't know. I'm not sure, because it's not as if, you know, they're not trying to go back in time necessarily, because all they have is the projection that she's constantly watching throughout this episode. So I don't know if it's just kind of something, you know, so that someone can relive the past and not necessarily to bring people back to life. I don't know.
Well, a really interesting line again that Katie kind of, I think her dialogue in this episode was just incredible. One of the things she said towards the end of the episode when she was talking to Kenton, she was like, you know, I know you can kill Lily, but it's not in your power to kill Lily. So, and I think with the very last scene, she chooses to take that power into her own hands. You know what I mean? So she can manipulate something, and she is definitely manipulating things. So the future can be different from maybe what it would have been had she not touched anything.
Yeah. Good, very good point, Bob. Thank you for pointing that out. It makes totally sense, actually, now that you say it. Coming back to that scene, I just wanted to talk about that scenario. We talked about that a little bit. So Kenton gets back to the devs department. He's on campus, and he sits in a room with Forrest and Katie standing in the back. And then he basically says something like, hey, I can't do this anymore. You know, I don't want to be like responsible, like just by myself, just for what happened already. And I killed people already. So that was the first time for me that I felt something like humanity within him. You know, I felt something like, oh, wait a minute. I think he's really aware of what he did already. And he really has a problem now with that out of a sudden. And he just wants to be reliable for all of that even also Forrest and Katie are responsible for. So, I mean, what did you guys feel about that? Because I felt like, wow, at the beginning, he came across like this brutal guy. He doesn't care about anything. He just does what he feels like is the right thing. But now it shows a little bit like, wow, this human side of it. And he's like unsure. He felt a little bit insecure to me in that moment. Tyler, what did you feel in that moment?
I think you're right. We did see a different side to him in that moment. And even in the very beginning with Jamie in the bathtub, I felt like we finally got a sense of what Kenton's been thinking all this time, because he kind of went into this whole side note about China and all that stuff. But then, you know, the scene that you're talking about, it made it seem like he's just not into this anymore. He doesn't want to go to jail. He made that really clear, which you'd think someone tough like him is like, you know, jail's the least of his worries. But yeah, he doesn't want to take this any further, which I find really interesting.
Exactly. Ashley, what do you think?
Well, I think in the very first scene, he was talking to Jamie about how his job was just security at devs, and he's just trying to keep information contained. So the fact that Sergei was recording that information, the information was no longer contained. So maybe that's why he killed Sergei in the beginning. And, maybe he just felt that he had to do this in order to keep the information at bay, so it wouldn't get out into the wrong hands. So I don't know, maybe he wasn't like a killer after all, and he was just put in a very interesting position, but I don't know, because he's not that guy.
It's a very good point, because I'm always asking myself, what's in it for him? So why did he even do all that in the first place, right? Why is he, even if he's a security guy working for the devs department and is basically responsible for the security for the campus, for the whole company, that doesn't mean that you have to go out and kill people, right? So I'm just like, okay, what's in it for him really? I think we don't even know yet what's in it for him. I think there's a specific reason why he does all of that. And I think it's not just because he wants to basically keep the security part of the company. I think that's not just what it is.
I think money has a big thing to do with it with Kenton also, especially in like one of the previous episodes when they were on the porch and Forrest was like, I don't care about money. Like, look at where I live, look at the type of car I drive. And Kenton was like, you have the biggest mansion, the best, so I think money may be a driver in Kenton's life, which would make sense as to why he would act the way he's acting.
It's funny we talk about money again. I just wanted to point that out one more time. When Lyndon left, she just got $10 million. Why not?
10 million.
Just saying.
No big deal.
But, thanks, Ashley. Very good point. I definitely can see it. I think money is the driver, actually, as always, right? Most of the time, obviously. But thank you so much. These are basically the topics that I wanted to point out. I think it's a very interesting episode. But now, as we mentioned, or I mentioned already, we definitely have a special segment. We always talk about an MVP, right? And Tyler, please tell us who the MVP is today.
The MVP today is Sergei.
Surprise!
That's when the special effects, the fireworks.
Right. But tell us, what do you think? Why do you feel like he's the MVP today? So what was your point of making that decision?
Okay, so what I loved about Sergei in this episode was not only have we not seen him in a while, but I felt like we really got a chance to feel for him and get to know him a little bit more. Like, we saw his personality. We didn't see him much in the beginning. He just got killed off right away. So there was no, we didn't know much about him or his personality, his soul or anything. But seeing him with Lily and their meeting, you kind of get a sense for his personality, and it makes you feel even worse that he's passed. But I enjoyed getting to know his story a little more.
I have to point that out before I come to you, Ashley. Is he really passed? Question mark.
Uh-oh.
Okay, Ashley, please.
I loved Sergei in this episode, especially the scene with he and Lily on the bed when he just kind of like opens his heart and was like, I love you. You're amazing and funny and charming. And I was just like, that is so real. Like, what a great way to we're just in the bed watching TV, just chilling, and you just tell me how great I am.
Right.
I love that.
Oh, women love that, right? Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It was perfect. He did such a good job.
Okay, I know what I'm doing next, people. I'm ready. I got it. I got it down. No, but that's a very interesting point you mentioned that, because I have to come back to, and I said that before, I think in the second or third episode already, is Sergei really dead? Did he really pass? Because now I think even more, he might be still alive, or they made him alive again, because when a mouse can come back to life, why not a human being? So who tells me that Sergei is really dead now? We have we have more episodes coming up. So I wouldn't really be surprised to have a twist. My prediction already, guys, that Sergei out of the blue is coming back and is surprising all of us. That's just my thing, but I definitely, he's still an MVP for me, even that we haven't seen him in a while. Because again, at the beginning, when I saw him the first episode, I was sure that he is the protagonist. So I was really surprised that it's shifted towards Lily, right?
Yeah.
So that was still interesting. So I can't really see that, even that he been cut off so early on, that his storyline is already over. I can't really see that. So, but anyways, thank you so much. Before we come to an end, guys, I said my prediction already, but I also want to know what you guys feel about the next one. So Tyler, let's start with you. What is your prediction for next week's? It's tough,
I
right?
think that's a hard one. I think that we're gonna see a few more flashbacks of Lily and her father. Because I still don't understand that part of the storyline yet. So I think we're gonna get more insight into why it is that Katie's looking that far back.
Good point. Thank you. Ashley, what about you?
So I think in the last scene, that scene felt like to me that Katie was saving Lily from being killed from Kenton. So I think that in the next episode, Katie will continue to change some things in the past and the present in order to further change the future.
Ooh.
Wow. Okay, that's deep. That's deep. No, certainly, that's good. That's
a good one.
No, I can definitely see that too. And I think, like, again, I mean, at some point, from a storyline perspective, that's maybe probably one of the reasons why Jamie is still alive. Because at the end, we see, as you just said, he comes in and he's basically escaping with with Lily, right? And is taking her out of this bedroom or whatever it is. But yeah, totally, Tyler. I just wanted to mention it very quickly. Very interesting. We haven't talked much about it, but I think there is a specific reason, and you're totally right, why they showed us Lily and her dad. And I just wanted to point that out before we come to an end. Remember that scene when I think the dad is about to die or to leave Earth, where he's basically saying a man never steps into the same river, which stuck with me for a minute because I was like, okay. And she even asked him, so what do you really mean by that? And then he said, a river is not always going to be the same river. It's going to be a different river. And the man is not always going to be the same man. So just before we end that show, just last thoughts about that comment that he gave us. What did you guys think? Ashley, starting with you, how did you feel about it? And what do you think he was trying to tell us with that?
That line gave me chills, and I thought that was the premise of the whole. I think that line is literally the premise of the whole show. I think that's what they're trying to determine or teach us. My guess.
Yeah, good point. No, I can see that. Tyler, what about you?
It was one of those moments where my parents maybe tells me a quote that's really similar, and then I know that it means something. I don't know what it is yet, but I know over time that I'll get it. And I feel like I agree with Ashley. It gave me chills, and I think over time it'll make even more sense to us. It's like it kind of makes sense, but I feel like it'll make even more sense as time goes on.
Totally. I mean, from my point of view, I still don't 100% get it. I get a feeling for it almost, but I think we're going to find out in the future. I think that's something they did on purpose to make us think first. And then when we see the next episode, we're like, okay, I know what you mean now. But thank you so much. And also you guys at home, thank you so much for watching. If you know what that means or you have an idea, please let us know. We would really like to hear it. I mean, there are 1,000 options, right? It could be anything, seriously. But yeah, thank you so much, guys, for joining. Tyler, Ashley, it was a pleasure as always.
Thank
But
you.
before we end, Ashley, where can everyone find you?
You guys can find me at Ashley Dior Jones on all social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, everywhere.
Awesome, cool. Yeah, check her out for sure. And Tyler, what about you?
You guys can follow me on Instagram at Miss Tyler Simone.
Miss Tyler Simone. Oh yeah. And no, I like that. So and yeah, you can also follow me on Instagram and also Facebook and now Twitter, guys. I'm also on Twitter now. I know it took me a while, but I did it. It's at Benjamin Schnau, SCHNAU, like the dog almost, right? You got it. And yeah, again, thank you so much for watching. I know we're still at home, right? Again, but we're gonna make that work, guys. If it's gonna take a couple more weeks, we don't care. We're going to be here for you guys next week as well. Oh, yeah. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great evening and make the best out of the situation.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.